Put on your hard hat and buckle up that tool belt. It's time for some heavy-duty conversation about all things Tampa Bay. Welcome to Tommy's Toolbox, the podcast, Season 2. I'm Tommy Whitehead, the CEO and founder of TomCo Solutions. We're not just a construction and financial experts, but passionate advocates for our thriving community here in Tampa, Florida. As a construction pro and proud Tampa Bay resident, I'm excited to shine a spotlight on our region. Whether you're a longtime resident or considering a move to Tampa Bay, get ready to uncover some hidden gems and fascinating insights about our beloved hometown. Sitting with me today at the drafting table is Jessica Casucci, Tax Managing Director at BDO USA. Today, we'll be diving into the world of strategic tax planning with an expert who has been serving clients for over 20 years in the investment partnership space. So welcome, Jessica, and I have to ask, I was coached on how to say that I just couldn't say it. I had to act it. Did I do that right?
Close.
Close?
A little more passion. Casucci.
Casucci.
I say everything we do, we're Italian, it's operatic. It's with passion. We don't do anything small and quiet, really.
No, you don't. You know, the Southerners are kind of like that too. We're very boisterous as well. Mm-hmm. So I guess we're cousins from different continents.
Different continents, and maybe that's why I feel at home down here. Extra flair.
And a little extra flair. I love that. So, Jessica, tell me a little bit about your foundation. I want to know a little bit more about you. Where are you originally from?
So I was born and raised in the Bronx in New York, in case the accent doesn't give it away.
Every time you say the Bronx.
Yes, the Bronx, the hands start moving. And part of that is because I was raised primarily by my great-grandparents, who were Italian immigrants. My mom had me very, very young. My biological father was on drugs and in jail, so he wasn't part of my life. And my grandma had to work. And so after school, I would come home and I'd be with my great-grandparents every day. And so we had this very big, loving, loud family. Didn't realize we didn't have any money until later on in life. And then they gave me a really great work ethic and a sense of family, and a sense of community, and no sense of what Fruit Loops were or McDonald's, because I had home-cooked food. And then I was very lucky. A little bit genetically lucky because I was born smart and got opportunities to go to private school, and I went away to college and never forgot where I came from, but just busted my butt because I always wanted to see the world, and I wanted to figure out how to do that. So I went to college and then law school after that, and I put myself through school, and then I got recruited right out of law school to go work for a firm combining my legal and finance degree. You know, as I like to say kid of immigrants, back then in the 80s and 90s, they always said, become a doctor or a lawyer, and I love animals and I couldn't dissect anything. And I had a big mouth, and my grandmother said, you have a big brain and a big mouth, you better go use it to do something. And so I ended up in law school after that. And then the rest is history. I just worked really hard and took a lot of opportunities. I lived up and down the East Coast in Europe, got to work in Argentina for a little while. That was great too. And 20-something years have passed, and it's been a blast for sure.
That's awesome. And that's one of the things I love about you and why we hit it off. And disclosure, Jessica and I are very, very good friends. But we kind of grew up in similar situations. Mm-hmm. Our grandparents spent a lot of time raising us. Mm-hmm. We had very, very young mothers. We had to kind of pull ourselves up by our bootstraps because nobody just handed us. We had to work for it.
No, not at all. Somebody asked me one day where my work ethic and my drive came from. And part of it, I always give credit to my great-grandfather. He was the produce guy at the supermarket. And he worked until he was too sick. And he made sure there was food on the table for 7 of us every night. And so I keep a picture on my desk. I actually showed it to somebody yesterday, and I'm 4 or 5. And he was like my dad growing up until my stepfather came into my life when I was 16. But he never complained. He always had a joke and a smile for everybody. And every time I think something's hard or maybe I can't do it or, I'm having a rough day, I look at that picture of him and I remember I have absolutely nothing to complain about. And I think about how hard they work to give me the opportunities that I have, so why not go for them? And that's just always what does it for me. So
that sounds like a very powerful and motivating factor.
yeah.
That's incredible. It's very heartwarming. That's very heartwarming. So you've been all up and down the East Coast. You've been international. What brought you to the Tampa Bay region? I mean, other than it's amazing.
So I actually lived in other areas of Florida before, and when I knew that I wanted to come back to Florida about 2 years ago, I was looking at a variety of things. I was looking at the environment, the business environment. I was looking at the types of people I would be around. I was looking at the weather and the growth, but also the ability to access nature. So even though I grew up surrounded by concrete, I'm an avid scuba diver and a hiker. My sister jokes I'm a forest fairy. I love to climb trees still. And so I wanted to be able to, even though we live in a vibrant city, be able to access nature. I'm 5 minutes from the water or 40 minutes from hiking in a national forest. And I thought that was great. And I just think Tampa is booming in the best possible way. Business is just developing, but people are still nice and kind and friendly and welcoming. And I said, why not? Let's give it a shot. And I've loved it ever since I moved.
That's amazing, and I'm glad you touched on the business in Tampa Bay, because the next question is, I want to know a little bit more about your work experience and diving into BDO.
Sure.
And to know a little bit more about BDO, but you have a very unique experience in what business is happening, not just locally but globally.
Yeah.
You've seen other markets come and go. Mm-hmm. You've seen other companies that are global, and you said something very important. Tampa Bay business is booming when you have seen the global map.
Yep.
So tell me about BDO and tell me about what in Tampa is just, wow, it's booming.
Sure. So BDO is the 5th largest accounting firm in the world. Even though I am an attorney, I work with them. And so what I do is I advise private equity funds, venture capital funds, real estate development funds, and sponsor funds, and some hedge funds on making their businesses work better, faster, and smarter, and using tax to advantage their business. So instead of being afraid of the tax man, I work with my clients to be on their team. How can tax, you don't be scared of it, you can use it to grow your business. Or I take their tax nightmares away so they can focus on doing the things that they want to do. So how can we be more efficient? How can you save more money to invest it in your business or in your community, or to, do things you want, like volunteering and give back. So I try and find creative ways to partner with my clients to help their dreams come true and take the tax nightmares away. That's the simplest way to put it. And I love that I get to work with people that are doing good in the community. I have clients that have impact investing funds. I have clients that give back to charity, that develop low-income housing. Private equity gets a bad name, but you know what? Private equity keeps our teachers' pensions going along. My dad is a retired cop. My adopted dad, that is my true dad in every sense of the word, he's a retired cop. Guess what keeps his pension payments paying out? Private equity. In the last couple of years, what has been the growth engine for businesses as banks stopped lending? Private credit, venture capital, all those things are chugging along. And the fact that I get to use this brain to help that and help entrepreneurs make their dreams come true and do good in the community, that's really fulfilling for me. And to answer your question about, Tampa specifically, one, Tampa already had great businesses chugging along, but we are seeing a lot of relocations down to Florida. It's not news to anybody in the world. Why? Super business friendly. You have a tremendously educated local population. You have great transfer workforce. You have easy airport to do business not only around the country but around the world.
It's one of the best airports in the country too. It keeps getting awards.
Trust me, I lived in New York and Charlotte and
I don't even want to talk about those two airports.
Never mind Miami, which gives me PTSD every time I go through there. You have the ports. Hillsborough County alone has 32 economic development zones. Pinellas has 16. That's fantastic, and that is huge for people who want to invest in the counties here and do development. So it's just completely chugging along. It's business friendly. You have, like I said, the schools, restaurants, hotels, and relatively affordable housing for now with people moving in. So those are just huge drivers of a business in Tampa. And I'm seeing that every day with my clients. They're doing new deals. They're hiring people here. It's just chugging along gangbusters.
That's incredible. There's two big points in that I want to reiterate. And one is from an entrepreneurial sense. Everybody views accountants and attorneys as overhead. But what you do in your capacity is actually pay for yourself by helping your clients save money. Probably more than what they pay you, or else it wouldn't be worth them paying you. And so a good tax accountant, a good attorney makes a difference in your tax bill. These privileges aren't just for billion-dollar corporations. They're available all the way down to Main Street, mom and pop making $50,000 a year. They're all available.
Yeah.
But the difference is the education, is that the thinking I can't spend $1,000 on an attorney, but not realizing that it saves you $3,000 in taxes by spending $1,000 on an attorney.
Yeah, I can give you a pretty easy example of that. I looked at an individual's return. Normally, let's call it this way, they generally work with a smaller firm than our firm. And I was looking at it as a favor, as a friend, and I said, hey, they didn't file X, Y, and Z on your return. They didn't file you properly as a real estate professional. So you know what? You paid $10,000 extra tax last year. I'm like, go call whoever did this last year and tell them, because they'll amend it for you and you'll get that money back. But any, accountant generally worth their salt will find these things. What I tell people, wealthy people, you think of them as like their tax cheats. No, they just have the knowledge that somebody else is providing them to follow rules that are available.
They follow the rules available. That's the big
legislation.
thing.
So what I tell everyone, don't go it alone. Talk to someone. There are resources for even low-income individuals. There's generally like tax hubs. There's even IRS centers that help low-income individuals help file their returns, file deductions, things like that. But then just entrepreneurs, make a phone call. There's generally resources out there, and don't be afraid of taxes. What I tell everyone, another thing all the time is, you don't want to call your accountant and just talk to them at the end of the year. Because then, you can joke, all you're going to do is get a bill or a refund, and that's fine. But this is a relationship. You want to talk to them about your hopes, about your dreams, about your business plan, so they can help facilitate that. If you want to grow your business, hey, you know what? If you're doing a residential building, let's throw in some electric vehicle chargers so you can get credits that either you can use on your taxes or you can sell on the market, monetize that as a revenue stream.
And those, as a developer, I know either pay for themselves or it's cheaper to put out the development cost to get that tax credit.
Exactly.
Especially if you're doing new construction or renovation on a development.
Exactly. And there's all sorts of things like that you don't even realize are available to everyday people that can help put money back in their pocket, like I said, to grow their businesses and facilitate all of their dreams. Another thing is, when you're going through your taxes, those are huge amounts of data that are being generated. So having someone that can help look through, just comparing year over year, is really key. So I help my aunt and my uncle do their taxes. It's family, of course. There's nothing that they're going to get upset about me sharing, but this year they had to pay. They generally have a refund. I said, okay, Uncle Ken, let's compare year over year, all my boxes. And this is something anyone who has TurboTax can do.
Yep,
okay?
Yep.
And you just look at the boxes and goes, okay, what's different? He got a new job. They didn't withhold at the right rate. And you could see that his withholding was down. So nothing else we did and all the other planning, but they withheld at a lower rate than they should have. So then he had to call HR, and something we can correct going forward. So it's just data that can help you figure out these things. But the more you're talking to someone early on as you're thinking about buying a house, getting married, or launching a new business, the better things will be. And so just look at your accountant as somebody on your team, not somebody you're fighting against.
That's incredible. And I so often get I see the Facebook experts, I air quote them. Should I incorporate as an S Corp or an LLC? Okay, well, there's so many problems with that. Please talk to your tax accountant and attorney about those because that's a legal and a tax question. But
Yes.
just people that come out with their Facebook advice on what it is and they have no idea what they're talking about, and it costs so much money. So I'm glad that we have another professional on the show today saying, hey, they're worth their weight in gold. It's going to save you money. The other thing we were talking about is the entrepreneurship in Tampa. You know, I recognize as a contractor here how Tampa was booming. And I thought, okay, construction is obvious. That's an obvious goal. But private equity is showing up here in Tampa.
Absolutely.
And I've actually formed TomCo Capital Partners. I've started my own private equity firm. Just for what you said, I don't think they're bad. I think that they can invest in good causes, and we're targeting affordable housing, which we need here in Florida. We need everywhere. But they're not bad vehicles.
No.
A lot of people want to invest their money, and they don't know how to do it other than to just send it to the local national firm and invest it in the stock market, and it goes up and down and up and down and up and down. But real estate's a lot more stable in a lot of markets. So it's kind of cool that you touched on that, and that you, out of all your experience worldwide, still decided to land here in Tampa Bay. And 20 years ago, we were kind of nothing. We were just a little, what's Tampa? I remember going to USF, and USF was your automatic get-in school. And now you have to have a 15-point GPA to get in and know the president or something. It's very difficult to get in. And that's just a sign of everybody coming here.
Yeah. And as someone who does a lot of interviewing and recruiting for the firm and has always done that because I enjoy it, you really see the strong talent pool here with the universities and people moving. It's very, very impressive. And I can't say that I've seen that everywhere I've moved. I've always had that component as part of my role because I enjoy it. And I've been extremely impressed with our interns, with the schools, with people that live here. It's great. Great.
That just shows that the region is attracting talent.
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
How could you not? The weather alone is fantastic.
I know. It goes from tornado activity to sunshine and a nice summer breeze. It's great.
You don't have state income taxes.
We do not have state income taxes. That's a big one. Why do we think we see all these billionaire speakers and Shark Tank stars living here? I think there's like 3 of them that live here now. And it's because there's no state income taxes.
No state income taxes and
snow shovels.
No snow shovels. And guess what? You actually get seasons in Tampa, unlike Miami, where I lived, which is just hot and then hot and wet. We actually get a little bit of winter, a little bit of fall, a little bit of spring, enough that you can put on your winter jacket, but not enough that you're miserable and crying because the wind is whipping your face and it's 16 degrees outside.
Yeah, I don't do that. I broke down and bought my first real jacket in like 15 years only because I had to go to someplace cold, but I would refuse for the 3 days of winter. I'd refuse to buy a nice jacket. I couldn't stand it. Now I've finally broke down. I'm like, I got to do it. Gave into the textile industry, damn them. So you mentioned a lot of cool things about Tampa Bay, but name one. What's your favorite part about being here?
Well, since we're talking about business, and I'm going to say this, but it has to do with people. My old firm relocated me 4 times for business.
Okay.
So I've lived a lot of places for work, plus then there's been moves that I initiated in there. This is the only place where when I've told someone I'm new or I've recently relocated, the very next thing they say is, how can I help you? Who can I introduce you to? And that's happened in business. That's also happened in my yoga studio. That's happened at the grocery store. That's happened all over. And it was just astounding. I've never lived anywhere where people have been so welcoming and so collaborative. I'm a competitive person. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't be where I was if I wasn't. And a lot of that's driven by me. But just it's collaborative. I think here people really understand the concept of let's grow the pie for everyone. We're not fighting over this one slice of pie together. And that's just been incredible. And that's why I want to make Tampa my forever home.
That's incredible. That's great. It's a huge melting pot of ideology here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think what you're experiencing is a little bit of the classic Southern charm. It's a little bit of let's introduce you. Let's make you feel family. Everybody is somebody you know.
Well, I'm going to push back on that one a little bit because I lived in Charlotte.
Okay.
And so and they can argue that they gave me their version of Southern charm. And yes, I do have friends from my time there, but comparatively, I don't get that, oh, bless your heart, fake friendliness here. It's actually real friendliness.
Now, remember I said a little bit of Southern
Little bit. I know. You know,
I put a disclaimer out there so I can't be sued.
I got you. And I'm sorry, North Carolina, it's not everybody there, but that just was generally my experience for a lot of folks.
So, Jessica, tell me, what drives you? Like, is there a favorite part of your day? It gets you out of bed in the morning?
So, considering way back in the day, I was a night owl and a club girl who bartended their way through college and law school. I am naturally a morning person. I wake up and I'm excited for the day. Doesn't hurt the fact that I have, a happy home life and 3 furry beings that I take care of that are super excited to see me every morning. So when you get woken up by kisses, it's hard to have a bad day, when you're showered with love first thing in the morning.
Fur baby kisses, right?
Fur baby kisses,
okay.
Yes. We're keeping it, rated G. And I jump out of the bed in the morning, and then I meditate, and I exercise, I pray, I do all that stuff, all before I start my day. And what gets me out of the day is every day I have is different. And so I'm excited to see how the day is going to turn out. I'm very busy all the time, but I like to stick to, here are the 3 main things I want to accomplish every day, so I know I can get to them. And then everything else is a wild card. So, let's bring it on, God. Let's see what today brings. So I'm always excited for that. So I don't know if it's just I have a natural curiosity about life. I'm a natural explorer. And so that factors into my day because I'm exploring, what the day is going to bring. So I don't know.
Today you woke up and
I woke up and I was excited. I was like, let's see what Tommy and I are going to talk about today. So
that's incredible. The vibrancy that you exude is a lot of people are nervous when they don't know what's going to happen today. And you're like, bring it on. We'll figure it out.
That's been the story of my life. My grandma used to have a saying, God laughs when you're busy making plans. Because, you never know what curveballs are going to come at you. And I've gotten used to that a little bit in life. I have a framework for life and goals, but I'm always ready for, an adventure and what's going to happen. And that's also probably why I accepted getting relocated a few times and taking on roles in my career when people are like, you're set, you're comfortable, you have your clients, you have all this. Why are you going to start from scratch all over again? Why not? Let's take on the challenge. We've got one life to live, so
that's incredible. That's incredible. It's a very optimistic view. Don't get defeated by changes. Roll with them. Turn them into something good.
Yeah, I don't think I would have gotten past 12 in my family if I didn't have an optimistic viewpoint on life.
And I think we share that
yes,
in our life. If we weren't constantly optimistic, because I get that all the time. Tommy, why are you so positive all the time? Well, it was kind of a defense mechanism when I was a kid. Then it turned into a personality trait, and it was a good personality trait. I like it. Well, I like being the optimist in the room.
I like it, but it also, it came from observational data because I saw people who were constantly negative and fearful and then wondering why they didn't realize their hopes and dreams.
They're perpetuating their own fear.
Absolutely. I can't live a life based on fear. I can't. What's the point of living? What's the point of being alive? We have one shot here. Do something big and good, and whatever that looks like for you. And big is different to everybody else. That just could be loving the person next to you with all your heart. That's something tons of people are afraid of. Never mind work and careers and everything else. So
absolutely. In your opinion, what makes Tampa an attractive location for new development? We talked about business. That's awesome. But what about new development? There was, in the morning news, there was just the conversation about Ybor Harbor. I think they've changed the name a couple times, but it was a really interesting read.
Is that Gasworks?
It was they're partnered with Gasworks.
Okay.
Gasworks is separate, but Ybor Harbor is a little section off of Adamo Drive that they're turning into. It's like a little south of Ybor, and it'll flow into the River District, into the Riverwalk District. But that is a massive development project. Massive. They're talking live, work, play concept. And for those of you that aren't familiar with live, work, play, that is a district where you can actually live near where you work and where you entertain yourself. So you're not driving everywhere like we're used to in Florida. You can actually be within a few city blocks, but not a megatropolis like New York, where you have to go all over. It's really in the area.
Yeah.
So tell me about development specifically. What's very attractive here?
Well, I mean, I mentioned earlier, you have all these opportunity zones. So there are certainly economic developments, economic incentives for development here, for businesses to come in. I think that development has thus far been thoughtful. It's been thoughtful of trying to keep the local character, like we're seeing with what's going on in Ybor City. For if anybody's listening that's not from Tampa, that doesn't know, Ybor's got its own historical flair with it, and they're trying to keep that as they develop.
That's the oldest buildings in Tampa. Some of them are right there in Ybor. The Cuban cigars that you've heard about.
Exactly.
It's vibrant.
Yeah, there's the Centro Español, which is like a Spanish cultural society. There's the Italian Club there, which has been there since 1902. That, for people who aren't aware, a lot of Italian immigrants and immigrants from Cuba and other places throughout, Spain or Latin America came in and became this whole melting pot around Ybor City. And in the cigar trade, and they're keeping a lot of that vibrancy and the cultural aspects there as they're building office space, business space, green space around there. So that's fantastic. I think the waterway, the Riverwalk development, keeping in tune with nature, the nature that we all love and prize here as we're developing, that's really important too. And I think that they've been really thoughtful with planning. I'm talking about business development there. I think there's a lot of educational things going on in the state of Florida that can be pro or con, but we'll see where that goes. I'm excited about the Bright Line eventually coming here because that's a huge game changer.
Transportation is big.
And so as someone who, now it's not great, the subway, but, I lived in New York and I lived in Boston also and lived in London. Examples of public transportation in these big metro hubs. I mean, we live basically at sea level, so you can't do a subway. But what are the other options you can make without, hurting the environment and then not have like train tracks everywhere, like elevated train tracks. So coming up with creative ways, maybe using our waterways, water taxis, things like that, getting to different places.
And we've started to see some of that
Exactly.
as well. There's the Cross Bay Ferry that they're
Exactly.
trying to institute, and it's seasonal. And then there is the water taxi. I think the Yacht Starship company has a waterway taxi, and it takes you from one part of downtown Tampa to the other. And it's a beautiful ride. If you haven't been on it and ridden down the river, it's very, very cool.
Yeah, it's great. And we saw success of that when I was back in New York, people coming from more residential or suburban areas in New Jersey and Staten Island, taking ferries up to New York. So another way to kind of eliminate some of the cars on the road, getting people where they need to, and then like utilizing some of our natural resources in a positive way to get there. So we'll see. Those are exciting things, but things that Tampa is going to have to, handle as it keeps growing. But it's exciting that it's been very thoughtful, everything that I've seen. Even Water Street, the next phases of Water Street are just, I'm excited to see that.
It's amazing. I was there when Channelside first went in and they ripped it out and they added back. It's really incredible seeing what's changed. So tell me, Jessica, how do you see the role of tax management or a tax manager or director evolving over the next 5 to 10 years? There's so much new technology. There's a shortage of accountants we're hearing about coming up. There's the advent of AI technology that's influencing the industry drastically, which is going to have to help in some form. It's not taking jobs away. It's filling jobs that we don't have people to fill right now.
Yep.
And that's what we're working on in the construction industry. My company is working on some AI tools to help supplement the construction industry. But accounting and construction, they're kind of weird. They're different, but we have the same labor shortage coming up.
Yep. So there's a couple of things. When I started 20-something years ago, we were always busy and we were always working hard. And the promise was, if you just crush it and, work like a dog for 10 years, you'll be a partner. Whether that's a law firm, accounting firm, whatever. You'll be a partner, principal, whatever the owner. Well, the labor force is different now. They're not sticking around for 12 years. For the carrot then. They're not going to take the stick for 10 years to get the carrot then.
It's an average of like 3 years at max now, right?
So how are we empowering our professionals? How are we, two ways. One, I love that my company now has an ESOP. So from our brand new staff, they get stock in the company. So you don't have to wait for 12 years to get some sort of ownership, to feel like you're getting a slice of the pie. So again, that brings it back to that collaborative nature. We're all growing the pie together. And this is something that's just gifted based off your salary, and that's it. So that's fantastic. And I see trends towards that of rewarding people now. The other thing is technology. For a while, I would say the last 10, 15 years, you started to see, I made a joke about people were becoming data entry clerks. I said, you don't need a master's to do that. I said, tech can do that part. I want your brain. I want to use technology to take the robot out of the professional, okay? Not use a robot to replace the professional. So all those repetitive tasks, those manual things where there's risk in the process, that's where we're seeing tech. But in all the ways that my clients find me valuable, really pay for my services, has nothing to do with the AI. So the tech and the AI support the kind of the commodity aspect of the role, like getting the numbers on the forms, drafting the legal document, right? My role really is a combination of 3 things. I was thinking about this morning. I'm part math whiz. I'm part financial coach. So meaning, what are your goals? What are your dreams? We're in the boat. Where's your head at? How are we going to get to those goals and dreams? And the other part is I'm a little bit of a therapist too, because, we're humans. Not everybody makes rational decisions. And sometimes there's worried fears. My clients need to feel comfortable talking to me about all of that. AI is not replacing those things. And I want my professionals to grow and develop so their clients, so they learn those skills. So they have time to learn those skills so they become the leadership of the future. So their clients can trust them with all of that, because that makes them pick me versus somebody else, okay? Somebody else can get numbers on a form. Somebody else can draft a contract. That's fine. We can all do that.
That's data entry.
That's data entry.
You don't need an expert for data entry.
No, you don't need it. You don't need an expert. You want it right and correct, and that's what tech is for. And I want my clients' data, I want them to leverage their data and tech to help them. And we have teams and people that help with that. So I see a lot of the manual repetitive processes going away. I actually see the role becoming more attractive because that stuff goes away. You don't have people sitting here going, why did I get a master's degree to hit control copy, X or Z or whatever the heck the staff use for different formulas now. I'm using a simple one to copy paste 1,000 times. It's I remember thinking the same things. You're like, why am I doing this? Why did I go to law school again? So again, having our clients really have the access and the availability to the thinking and us being in their boat. So, and then taking away kind of more of the commodity aspect of the role, that will make it more desirable for recruiting. I think we'll see it turn around a bit more.
And we've already seen this revolution a little bit. Mm-hmm. I mean, when we went from typewriters and filling out your 1120 with a typewriter. 1120 is a corporate tax return, right?
Yeah.
And then you fill that out with a typewriter. But now the software grabs stuff out of your general ledger and just starts plugging it in.
Oh, yeah.
That's very manual, tedious labor that's just, bam, it's eliminated. Now, even though we eliminated that, did we eliminate a lot of jobs? No, we have other things for them to do, and we still have a shortage of accountants.
Yeah. You want people in the right role. So another thing that we do with our clients, we do what's called like different firms call it different things, but like a functional review. So what are your people, process, and tech? Are you using them in the right way? That doesn't mean we're going to tell you, oh, you got to fire this person, hire this person. Maybe this one has better skill sets for this role or this and that. Maybe it's job switching. Or are you leveraging your tech to help your people? Are your people drowning so they don't have time to put their thinking caps on to really provide the value add? So are they drowning in tech or manual processes and data? So a lot of times we'll teach our clients how to use what they have in-house. So they don't have to go out and buy anything or build anything, but to use what they have in-house better to provide the data through the whole financial and tax process as well. So then their people can start thinking and helping them plan also.
There you go. You're saving the money again. You're not saying go spend more.
No.
You're saying use what you have more efficiently.
Save money and making money, because if we free up time to have people thinking about the actual business versus where are my files saved and is that formula right? It's a win for everybody.
That's incredible. Jessica, can you give me a name of a person or a business that's kind of thriving right here in Tampa Bay? We love to highlight local and small businesses and initiatives.
Okay, so I'm going to give a couple.
Of course you are. Absolutely.
Because I'm extra, right? Yeah. We said this. I'm going to highlight a couple of businesses and one charity.
Okay.
So and we're talking small businesses here.
Great.
So my yoga studio, Cocoon, I love you guys. They're in South Tampa off McDill, and they actually opened up their location the week that I moved here. They didn't even have all the curtains up, and I started Googling yoga studios close to me. So caveat.
But not yoga studios without curtains. You didn't
no, I didn't Google that part. Caveat. So I've practiced yoga for 15 years. I taught for a while. So this is something really important to me. But it became my home because I didn't know anybody here when I moved. And again, warm, welcoming, and the business is just thriving. There's extra rooms and teachers, and it's just a great home for all of us in South Tampa. And it's a wonderful, welcoming space. It's a welcoming space for all levels and backgrounds and all sorts of stuff. So that's great. I love Bayshore Mediterranean Grill because I love Turkish food, and I go there like every other day. I was there yesterday getting soup. Again, I like to shout out neighborhood spots. So they're a family-run business all the way down by Interbay, right by the Air Force Base. And then I want to shout out a charity that's near and dear to my heart. So Project Dynamo is a veteran-run organization based here in Tampa, and what they do is they go in and rescue Americans from around the world. So let's think about things that have happened very recently. They just got 50 people out of Haiti. They've been working, getting people out of Israel. They got more people out of Afghanistan than the U.S. government did. I don't want to go on a whole political tangent because I can, and that's a whole nother podcast. But this is a completely volunteer, veteran-based organization. They run entirely off charitable donations. So the number of people that they can save is only limited by their finances. So how many planes can they get off the ground, and how quickly can they do that? And they have networks around the world. I mean, they've got people out from behind enemy lines in Ukraine, out of Russian forces' hands, U.S. citizens. So,
and I think the leadership there, he was
Brian
former,
Stern.
Yeah, he was former Black Ops, and so we're not talking just a civic organization that's trying to charter flights. No. We're talking covert operation type.
These are
things.
Professionals.
These are they can't even talk about a lot of what they do. They can only talk about the result.
The result, and when you have 100 people reunited with their family on the tarmac here in Florida that they got out of Israel in the chaos of the things that happened after October 7th, U.S. citizens. elderly, children, everything. Like, that's just priceless. But these are professionals. Like you said, they know what they're doing. They have networks around the world. They even helped during the hurricane, when Hurricane Ian. They had people on the ground first, and then, like they say, they get out of the way when the government shows up and steps in. They did what they needed to do, and they were able to actually get there quicker than governmental organizations. So that was pretty fantastic.
Jessica, those are great shout outs to local businesses, and they are a great shout out to a local charity that's not so local. I mean, they're here locally, but they have a global impact. Right here in Tampa, having a global impact again.
Exactly.
That is just what they do is life changing. It's incredible.
It is.
So going off of that, Jessica, how do you see the future of Tampa Bay changing?
Well, we're going to see more people move here, obviously, because it's fantastic, and we know that. And so I'm looking forward to seeing more of the thoughtful development. I'm excited about certain affordable housing developments that I know that are going in, and I see that going up. I think we're going to see more people move from different parts of the country. There's been, a lot of people coming from the Northeast and the Midwest. Actually, I think you're going to have more migration from South Florida, too. I have a lot of friends down in Miami that have lived there, and, maybe historically they didn't consider Tampa as a joke, a real city, and they're like, wow, it's amazing. And I'm like, yeah, come check it out. I was talking to friends last week that were considering moving out of Miami to Charlotte or Austin. I go, how about you check out Tampa first? At least you can still go see your family, So I think you'll see a little bit more migration as people are priced out of South Florida. So I think it's going to be important for us to make sure we keep that warm, welcoming, collaborative culture, make sure there's still affordable housing, and, we get some transportation. And I think, when the Bright Line comes, you're just going to see more daily business between the I-4 corridor with Orlando and then down South Florida as well.
And I think the Bright Line is going to help with that, too, when we are
Huge.
able to hop on a train in Tampa and be in Miami in a few hours. Now, we know we can drive for a few hours. We can all do that now. And you were even telling me about a story, and I've done this before, where you flew down to Miami for the day and back. Now, the travel time, honestly, is probably about the same because you have to sit in the airport and check in and check out and all that other stuff. But it's the difference of 3 hours of working time and 3 hours of driving where you can't work.
Mm-hmm. And I've taken the Bright Line from Orlando down to Miami as well. So I drove an hour and 10 to Orlando, got on the Bright Line because I could work the whole time. The Wi-Fi is fabulous. You can eat, it's food, it's comfortable, it's clean. Head all the way down to Miami. I didn't need a car in Miami for that, and it was great. Or I worked in Miami and needed to get to West Palm in a day. So this is going to be great for those of us that work in Central Florida between Tampa and Orlando. Imagine, one, there's a lot of people that make that commute, which is horrendous. And then, to be able to just go to meetings back and forth. Or how about travel and leisure and resorts? Once that train connects, you get the Disney crowd. People visiting can visit Orlando and Tampa, same vacation without having to drive. You can do day trips back and forth. It's going to be great for tourism as well.
Yeah, and tourism, most people think tourism is our number one industry. It's actually our second industry here in Florida. Agriculture, believe it or not, is our first industry here in Florida. But tourism can always be better. It's big. It's you mentioned before, we don't have state income tax, and we can thank tourism for that.
Yep.
The sales tax from the tourists help us keep income tax away. I like to talk about tools for success in my segments, and you've already mentioned several of them, especially emphasizing having a good attorney, having a good accountant can really help even small businesses, not just the large ones. So what are some other common misconceptions or overlooked aspects of tax planning that individuals or businesses should be aware of? Just real general, because,
Yes.
we don't want to get too complex.
Can't get complex. I cannot provide legal or accounting advice here. But one thing I like to joke, nobody's getting Al Caponed, okay? Everybody thinks if they make a mistake on their taxes, they're going to jail. We are humans. We've all made mistakes. I personally got audited once and my external hard drive died. And they said, okay, whatever you can't prove, we'll work it out. And then there's a little interest and you deal with it. You're not going to die. Everybody gets so worked up and gets so afraid. It's not like that, okay? Yeah. It is not like that. So that's one thing. Don't be scared. It's just numbers.
And if you've only made $10,000 this year, the government isn't going to spend $50,000 to persecute you.
Correct.
They're really looking for big fish first.
Correct. Well, okay. Let me dial that back because that's not technically the case.
Okay.
Okay. So I want to, without, again, not scaring people, but because our friends at the IRS don't really understand what I do, because what I do is really complicated. So in the world of tax, let's think of, or in legal world, let's put it this way. Think about lawyers like doctors. You have a general practitioner, you have a neurologist, you have an orthopedist, you have all this. Same way with legal stuff. What I do for my clients, I'm like a neurologist, okay? It's very complicated partnership stuff. It's really hard for the IRS to audit them. That's not telling people to go crazy or do anything. Look at me now, okay? What that means is it's hard. It involves a lot of data points. It's very complicated. They don't have a lot of resources. I know everybody sees, they got $88 million. They're having trouble hiring people. They can't find the people to fill those roles there. Where you do see people audited generally are regular middle-class people, unfortunately, because that's easy for your average IRS agent to understand. But what I tell people is don't be afraid. You're just showing them what you have. It's just the math. Generally, they don't really find anything. Yeah. They're just justifying their existence on the whole, that they have so many audits they have to complete. And it's easier to audit a school teacher than like a securities trader. It just is, because they understand that better. So just keep your documents, have a file, be organized, and talk to a professional. If you do get audited, that's also fine to engage somebody at that point. Don't be afraid. And there's plenty of resources. There's actually free community resources if you do get audited as well. Again, talking about individuals.
And it's so easy to keep this documentation now. I mean, before
everything's electronic.
Everything's electronic. I have emails from 20 plus years ago, and an IT person's like, "Hey, delete these." I said, "No, we are not deleting this. No. This data costs me fractions and fractions and fractions of a penny." I said, "When I die, you can delete it."
All you have to do, you get a receipt, you get anything. Like I use Microsoft Lens. It scans everything, creates PDF, and it saves to a file somewhere. This is my personal stuff. Mm-hmm. Saves to a file that I have that gets backed up using Dropbox or whatever you want to use. I know that sounds complicated. If you're old school, paper files, just keep them for a couple years. Businesses, you have to pay some tax. I'm sorry. That's a misconception. Yeah. I've been on the phone with he's definitely a billionaire at this point. I'm not going to shout out what client it was. And he was arguing with me over paying 3.5% effective tax rate. And for what people know, that means overarching, like around the whole world on all his income, 3.5 versus 5. That was a day I almost cracked because I was like, do you know what my dad was still working as a police officer pays? Like rate, it's like 30% or 40. He was in New York, so it's like 40 with state and local and everything. So getting people to understand that, yes, there are rules. You do have to pay something. I am not a magician. I joke, there's something, again, there's still rules, but there's planning we can do to, decrease that as much as possible within the realm of reality. But I can't just wave a wand and make it go away. So just mentally prepare that you do pay something.
Absolutely. They're going to get something.
Yes, exactly.
Just try to minimize what they get.
Exactly. And that's why we plan in the beginning, not at the end.
Jessica, let's say some little girl, some little boy's growing up and they're aspiring to be a tax attorney.
Said no one ever.
No one ever. Right. No, but they want to be a sharp professional in the financial industry, right? There's a lot of kids that are like, I want to be high-powered Wall Street professional. What are some tips that you could give them to get to that place?
Well, it's an easy one based on what you just said, especially if they're young. The role you want hasn't been created yet. It's your job to go out and create it. think about the components of different people's lives and jobs, whether that's the environment you want to work in, the people you want to be around, where you want to have an impact, if that, matters to you, the money you want to make, which I tell people don't focus on that because it comes with everything else. And then as you develop in your career, seek out those opportunities that give you chances to be in that environment, work with that person, make that impact, because then you're going to end up creating the role that you want, because it doesn't exist.
If you want to be in the finance industry, find out where the finance people hang out.
Well, find out where they hang out. I mean, learn how to add. That would be helpful. Sorry. When people ask me, why do I need to do math? I'm like, don't you want to know what your paycheck says?
Yeah.
Like, number one, and you go from that. But, that's one. Another thing is don't take advice from people whose lives you don't admire, okay? Because there's a lot of people in my life that I love dearly, but I don't want the life they had. So when they chime in on my personal choices or professional choices, I thank them. Some of them I'm like, I love you, but I wasn't asking, depending on the person. Yes. And then I just let it go, because you have to learn to trust your own instincts and the path that you want to follow. And if that doesn't exist, like I said before, you're going to create it. So just try and think of the people you want to meet on your path, and those are the people you want to take advice from.
And I've personally experienced that, even in the last year of all the things I've been accomplishing. And people say, "Oh, be careful! Don't ruffle any feathers." No, I want to ruffle some feathers.
Yeah.
And those are people that are not successful, trying to tell me to slow down and be careful. I'm like, well, that's not working for you, and that's not rude, but it's unsolicited advice, like you said. It's like, thanks, love you, but.
Yeah. And there are people in your life you learn to say, okay, I'm just venting. I'm not looking for advice right now.
Yeah.
So, and that's fine. I think the other thing I tell people is, and we've all met people in our careers like this who all they can do is talk about one specific thing at work. So yes, I do tax stuff. Do you think I walk around talking about the tax code all day, or who wrote a tax treatise? Hell no. My clients would hate me, okay? And I know people like that. God bless them. They're not me, okay? Right. So what I tell everyone is develop hobbies and interests and a life outside of work. Because a lot of times people work with you because they like you and they want to be, it's not saying it's a popularity contest, but you're going to be with them a lot. Even when I interview people that want to work with us, we work a lot of hours together. And by the time they get to me, their resume's fine, their grades are fine. I ask them about their life. What do you want to do? Tell me about your hobbies outside of school. If it's a young kid in college, do you volunteer? Do you have a job? I will hire somebody who worked or volunteered and maybe have a lower GPA than a kid with a 4.0 any day of the week. Because if you never had to multitask or never wanted to give back, you're not going to survive. You're not going to survive what we do. So.
And I'm grateful that you tagged on that, because I speak frequently and mentor young professionals frequently. And I ask them that, what have you done to volunteer? Oh, well, I've kind of been busy. No, volunteering is where you meet your next employer. Volunteering is where you can meet your next spouse, your next friend. Volunteering is where you give back. Volunteering is so much more than just, did I put my time in? It's not a court-ordered sentence. It's something that you should do. And it's important. So tell me, outside of your professional work, what do you do in the volunteer space?
So I've been blessed to have gone through certain challenges in my life. So there's easy one first. So I was a volunteer through iMentor, which is a program that teams you up with kids from underserved schools. And this is when I was in New York, and you're teamed with them for all 4 years of high school. And so you're matched. It's a little more than big brothers, big sisters, because you're actually helping them prepare and plan to go to college. And so as someone who did not have any role models, no one I knew went to college growing up. People barely even graduated high school in my neighborhood when I was growing up. I wish I had somebody like this that could just brainstorm with me and plan around college. So iMentor was fantastic. The other instance, I am a lucky, I call it a survivor or experiencer of domestic violence. So I've been on the board of a charity, but I've also been a victim advocate, and that's someone who shows up at the hospital when someone calls. And maybe that's holding someone's hand and telling them it's going to be all right, or maybe it's telling them about their legal resources and community resources. And people always say to me, how do you do that and come out unscathed? One, therapy, life, all these other practices. But like, I know how important it is to have somebody there that on the worst day of your life to tell you, one, it's going to be okay. And by the way, you have the power, which is even more important in that instance, to change your situation and change your life. Because just because something bad happened to you today does not make you a victim for the rest of your life. And that is huge, because I don't believe in victim mentalities. I believe in the same way, whether it's an education or empowering people to make changes in their life. It's just that changes the world.
And so you took a personal tragedy and you turned it into something to help other people get through their personal tragedy. That's impressive.
What's the point of going through it, right? I can say, oh, there's a random reason this happened, whatever. Okay, that's fine. Okay, well, let's do something with this.
Turn it into something to help somebody else.
Yeah.
That's incredible, and thank you for that. That's very important. We have far too few people that volunteer in those types of capacities, and thank you for that.
You're welcome. I can't jump on the plane with the Project Dynamo guys. So.
We all find our ways to give back.
Exactly.
I used to be a director of finance and accounting. I quite frequently do bookkeeping for small nonprofits.
Yeah, I've done
They only bring in like $20,000 a year, and they'll spend weeks trying to figure it out. That takes something like me 2 hours, and then I'll be like, "Why did you pay all this? You need to stop, cancel this, and da-da-da." And all of a sudden, they're so grateful, but they couldn't afford anybody. They couldn't afford it, and I'm sure if you've done that the same way, they could never afford you. They couldn't afford me. But it takes a few hours of our time because of our experience.
Yeah.
So give back where you can give back. That's okay.
Exactly. And I'm a big Catholic schools. I was astounded to find out that they're actually not supported by the mothership, so the local parish has to help pay for the school. Okay. And so when I was living in Miami, there was this great school in a very, very ethnically diverse and underserved neighborhood. And we would go to Mass there. And one day, one of the priests asked me, "Hey, Jessica, you're good with numbers. Can you help us look at some stuff?" And they were just bleeding money everywhere. They were worried they were going to have to close the school. And, a couple of hours out of my time, once a month, just help them get their finances. They were able to pay for a roof. There was just a bunch of things. And kids like me, who public school is not the best choice given what's going on in the public school in that neighborhood, that was the best educational choice for them, to give them an opportunity to have opportunities like me. Like, just because I can do math, that was like a no-brainer. So, that's...
So to the young professionals out there, if you're really good at social media, you'd be surprised how you can help a local nonprofit help with their social media profile. Few hours a month for you, something that takes nothing. If you're good at accounting, like Jessica or myself, that's easy. If you're good with construction, pick up a paintbrush. It doesn't have to be writing a check. Yep. Not every charity is looking for a check. Of course, they'll take it, but most of the time, they need help in labor and volunteerism, not the dollars. And they'll hands down take the volunteerism over the dollars, because your time is more valuable than your money quite frequently.
Yeah, the phrase is time, talent, and treasure. Treasure is last. So when you think about it in importance, it's like your time, your commitment, and your talent. Like, bring those, whatever you believe, your internal resources, your genetic resources, and give back that way. And that just causes a huge ripple effect.
Awesome. Jessica, we talked about networking and how friendly Tampa was. Mm-hmm. So can you tell us about any specific groups or organizations here in Tampa that have just been wow, that they've really made you feel welcome, introduced you to some great people?
Sure. I'm going to 3. So I've got to give a shout out to Bridget Bello and the group with Tampa Bay Business and Wealth Journal. Their networking events are just off the charts for at least for my business. And so you meet fantastic people. It's a great environment. They also highlight businesses going on in the community that you learn things about. So I love their events. ACG Tampa Bay, which is the Association of Corporate Growth. Again, that falls kind of in my industry. It's a lot of bankers, lawyers, things like that. So that was really helpful. But just also the Tampa Club. It's fantastic. You go there I recently became a member. I'm not pitching it because of that, but just they have events once a month or twice a month for non-members. You come. The membership director, Erin, she's great. She makes you do like funny icebreakers, so not annoying ones. She comes up with cool ones every single time, and it makes everybody laugh, and it's relaxing, and it's beautiful because, you have a great view of all of Tampa Bay from the 41st floor there. And then I've had fun at the Italian Club, just different mixers there. So it's just like you never know who you're going to meet. So all of those places have been really helpful for me.
So that was amazing. You mentioned the Tampa Club. Erin's actually been on this show.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, Erin's actually been on this show, and I'm actually on the board of directors and the philanthropy committee for the Tampa Club. So very, very great place, and happy to know that you're a new member up there. So that's wonderful. This is a funny part of our show. We kind of wrap up with this way. We had a lot of fun already, right? Mm-hmm. But can you tell me a crazy story or a funny or clean construction joke, or even an accounting or tax joke if you want?
Okay. So I grew up in the Bronx, right?
Okay. So
I can't tell you a construction story.
G-rated joke. Clean.
So it's not a funny story, but a lot of the construction stories I know growing up involve explosions and people disappearing. We're not going to go down that road, okay?
No. That's not the kind of construction I'm talking about.
No. And then accounting, we're not very known for our humor for work, so I'm going to give a very G-rated joke, and it's only because I love superheroes and Marvel. So, which Avenger makes the most money?
Which one?
Spider-Man, because all his income is net. Sorry, I'm a dork. That's the best I can do.
You'd have a room of accountants cracking up for that.
Yeah, I had to Google. I'm sorry.
Thanks for a job well done, Jessica. Thank you so much for joining us on Tommy's Toolbox, the podcast. If you have any questions about my company, TomCo Solutions, the construction industry, or real estate investing in Tampa, please be in touch or visit TomCoSolutions.com. My contact information is in the episode description, and I'll put Jessica's there as well. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, thank you again. I look forward to seeing you at the construction site for the next episode of Tommy's Toolbox, the podcast. Have a great day, everyone. Hi, everybody. Tommy Whitehead here. Have you heard about my book, Building Success, A Toolbox to Coming Out on Top? It's already been on the Amazon best-selling list. So scan that QR code on your screen or go to Amazon or any major retailer to get your copy today. I can't wait to hear what you think. So leave a comment below or leave a review with your thoughts.